You had a really weird situation that happened this past week with your daughter, your oldest daughter, where there was a suspicious fellow who decided to sit right next to her in an empty park.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to describe the environment we were in, okay? So we're in a pretty nice neighborhood. I mean, we're not like, driving Lamborghinis or anything like that, but it's a nicer neighborhood. It's very safe as far as neighborhoods go. We live pretty close to our elementary school. Adjacent to the elementary school, there's a little playground area and there's a neighborhood swimming pool. And, adjacent to this, there's this covered what do you call it, like picnic table area. There's about, I want to say 8 to 10 picnic tables in this covered patio area. And then directly across the street, or kind of, I don't know what the word is, kind of diagonally, I guess, but across the street, we have the elementary school where my kids go to school. And so and you can see this, like I can be standing at the school and look across the street and I can see the picnic tables, So what I do, so whenever my 12-year-old, she gets dropped off by the bus right next to this playground area. And so I meet her at the bus stop. We walk to the picnic table area. She gets her little stuff all set up. She likes to write. She likes to read books and draw pictures. And so she does that. And then I walk across the street. I pick up my 2 younger kids from the elementary school, walk back across the street, and she's been alone, but, not too far away for 5, maybe 10 minutes, maybe. And so that's just been our routine. She's 12 years old. She likes to be able to sit at the local playground by herself. Usually there's a couple other kids and teenagers over there playing on the swings or playing in the splash pad or whatever. So she's rarely ever alone while she's there. There's also other parents, walking to and from the school to pick up their kids. There's a security guard who's stationed in the parking lot. Like, it's safe. It's really, really safe. And, but of course, as we know, there are bad people everywhere, and they're just weird people everywhere. And so the other day, everything went as usual. I got my kid from the bus stop, got her situated at her favorite picnic table, and I think she was reading or something. So I said, okay, I'll be right back. And I went and got my 2 other little kids. We're walking back, and as I'm getting closer and closer to the picnic tables, I'm starting to see, is there a man sitting next to her? Like, is that a man? And as I get closer, I'm like, yes, there's a man sitting next to my daughter. And I was like, who the heck could that be? And I'm thinking this has got to be somebody we know, right? This has got to be one of her friends' dads, or maybe like a teacher that works at the school that I just don't recognize or have never met. I'm just assuming it's someone she knows. And so I walk up and I don't recognize the guy. And I said, hi, how are you doing? I was trying to play, calm and everything, but at the same time, I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I said, do you guys know each other? And they both look at each other and they're like, nope. Then I could tell that Elowen's, my daughter, is, looking kind of uncertain, like awkward. And he was not making eye contact with me. And so I just flat out asked him.
Wait, what was that last thing that you said?
He was not making eye contact with me. He started getting out a laptop and acting like he was there to, work or something. And so I just flat out asked him, I was like, why are you sitting next to my daughter? And he said, oh, well, there's an electrical outlet right here and I need to plug in my computer. And I said, there's outlets on all the pillars, there are multiple pillars next to several of these tables. Like, why aren't you sitting over there? He's like, oh, well, I didn't want to sit in the sun. And I'm like, this is a covered picnic area. Like, most of these tables, like a few of them, like the sun is going like this, and so a few of them were like partly in the sun. But I was like, dude, most of these are not in the sun at all. And I just flat out told him, I said, don't sit next to my daughter again. And he said, well, you're just racist. And that made me really angry because I was like, no. That has nothing to do with anything. Like, I didn't say this to him. I can't remember exactly what I said, because I was so upset. I just panicked. Like, and when I first walked up, I'm thinking this is our must be a neighbor or the parent of a friend, or it's somebody we know. And so it had that had nothing to do with it. The whole concern for me was this is a total stranger. He's about 45 years old. Like, who is this guy? Like, I don't know. And so I said, no. I said, that has nothing to do with anything. I don't know you. You don't know her. She's 12 years old. Stay away from my daughter. And at that point, he starts pulling out the F word. And, he said, you effing racist, crazy white woman. And so then, Becca, I admit it, I lost it. I said, this is bull bleep. I was so mad. I told him, I was like, you had all these options. You had other tables. There are outlets you could plug in anywhere you wanted. You did not need to sit next to her. So I start yelling at him. He starts yelling at me. And then I was like, let's go. And me and my daughter, we left. Oh, and at one point he goes, what do you think I'm going to do to your daughter? And I said, I don't know. That's not the issue. The issue is that this is not socially acceptable. You don't just walk up and sit next to a child who you don't know. And he's like, look, my car is right there. And he clicks his key fob and his car beeps. And I'm like,
great. So you can conveniently take her faster? Is that what you're
like,
trying?
What are you trying to prove? I don't even understand why he brought that up. I still don't understand why he brought that up. I'm like, you're not helping, dude.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, we're leaving. And we left, and I posted about it in our neighborhood Facebook group. And I was like, I just want other parents to know, I don't know who this guy was or anything like that, but explain the situation. Didn't describe the guy at all. But after I posted, first several neighbors responded, and they were like, you need to call the police, like right now. And so I did. I called a non-emergency number, and a police officer met me out there by the picnic tables, talked to the guy, talked to me. My husband actually met us out there because he was on his way home from work at the time. And the guy just kept up the same story. He said, I'm a crazy, racist white woman, and he did nothing wrong. And that was infuriating because that was never the issue. And he knows that. Like, he has to know that. I later found out that he has kids himself. I was like, dude, if you were like out somewhere and you turned around and saw, a grown man sitting next to your daughter, you'd be like, what is going on? Like, everybody would.
Yeah.
Like, the race, ethnicity has absolutely nothing to do with it. You got to protect your kids.
Yes.
And yeah, so that was really, but then after I got home, I found that a bunch of his family and friends had posted, so apparently they live in our neighborhood, and they were in our neighborhood Facebook group, and they had all posted on my post calling me crazy, calling me a liar, calling me racist and all this stuff, a fake abuse survivor. Actually screen captured our podcast, Becca. They were like, this girl, she makes money off making crazy accusations about people. I'm like, you think I make money doing any of my advocacy work? You don't understand how this works.
Did anybody in the Facebook group respond to their crazy allegations?
A couple people did. They were like, you did the right thing, and why are people trashing her? All she's doing is trying to protect her kid from a stranger. Like, she doesn't know this guy. What in the world is happening? But I think a lot of people are just really confused. Like, why are so many people against this woman, being so vocal against this woman, not realizing that, well, these are his neighbors and his friends and his work colleagues. And I looked up a couple of them online, and wouldn't you know it, one of the men who's defending him actually has a criminal record. He had convictions. Granted, this goes back to the late 80s, early 90s, I think it is. But still, he had convictions, multiple convictions for soliciting prostitution and for illegally carrying weapons. And so it's these, and that particular guy was the one who said that I'm a liar and I'm just trying to get attention and I'm a bad mom for leaving my 12-year-old at a very, very highly public playground for 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, you're not a bad mom.
Thank you.
I think that a bad mom would not speak up and ask the hard questions. I don't know why. I think I know why. But when you were talking, it reminded me of a post that you made a couple days ago. Mm-hmm. It says, as Christians, we sometimes talk and sing about being the hands and feet of Jesus. We want to go where he sends us and accomplish the tasks he gives us. But the hands and feet of Jesus were pierced by nails. Sometimes doing the right thing, the brave thing, and the good thing costs you everything. Don't let that stop you or even slow you down. Heart.
Amen. Yes.
Heart. So I think you did the right thing. It wasn't easy. Your adrenaline was probably
Oh my gosh.
pumping. Your hands were
Through
probably
the roof.
shaking,
Yes,
right?
through the roof. And I had a horrible headache afterwards. Like I got so upset. And then that night it was just like my head was pounding. And even the next morning, like I woke up with a headache. So,
And that was yesterday or Wednesday?
I want to say it was Wednesday, but I've still got a low grade headache. And I think it's just the stress.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think when you're in that fight or flight mode and your adrenaline starts pumping, your cortisol levels get raised, and
oh yeah,
you probably went home and like had a caffeinated beverage maybe, and that just increases it more. So it absolutely makes sense why you had a headache after and still have a lingering headache. It just puts so much stress on your body in those moments.
It does. Well, and I'm sure you've experienced too. It's like you're so tired afterwards too. It's like the energy is just sucked out of you and you just feel down. And like I even had moments when I was like, am I really a bad mom? And I'm like, no, Jennifer, that's ridiculous. The guy who accused you of that actually was convicted of soliciting prostitution. So like,
oh gosh, yeah, no. Call him out to the ends of the earth.
Oh my word. And you know what? That's the other thing. So like say I did make a stupid mistake. Say I did do something unwise or unsafe. That man still has a responsibility to respect my child's boundaries.
Yes.
And we don't I don't know what his intentions were. Maybe he just really genuinely wasn't thinking. I think he's from another country too. So, maybe in their country, the cultural norms are just different and he just didn't understand. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here. But the thing is, when, as adults, we want to teach children to have those healthy boundaries. Like even me as a woman, if I saw somebody else's kid sitting alone on a park bench or on, I wouldn't go sit next to them. Like I just wouldn't. And even if, say for example, all the other picnic tables were occupied, say it was really packed for some reason and all 8 or 10 or whatever it is, all the picnic tables were totally full, sitting next to her was the only option. I still would have said, hey, do you mind if I sit down?
Yeah, that's proper for sure.
Yeah,
and
he didn't do that. He actually, what he did was he sat down, and this is what I saw as I was walking up. He sat down, he leaned over close to her, and he said, are you working on schoolwork? And she said, she felt awkward, and she said, no. And then they both noticed me coming. So, yeah, it was...
reminds me of how we have this influx of immigrants coming in our country and there's no transitionary period for them. There's no cultural teaching. There's no customs teaching.
Yeah.
There's no adjustment period for them to learn what American culture is like. So that way, you don't kidnap pets and eat them in your backyard. Just another example for us, right? But I guess my follow-up question is, what did the discussion with Elwyn and your 2 other daughters look like? Because obviously this is a teaching opportunity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was funny. So my 10-year-old and my 8-year-old were both just like, wow, mom, that was wild. You were crazy, mom. That was great.
Yeah. And I think there's a healthiness to that kind of response.
Yeah.
Because our children should see us be mama bears. They should see us protect our cubs at all costs.
Yes. Well, and the emotional response, like my 12-year-old was shaken up. She was very shaken up. She I could tell she felt shaky and she was nervous, and a large part of that was exactly because the guy had made her uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. My 10-year-old and 8-year-old were extremely affectionate afterwards. They were like, you're a really good mom. Like even before the neighbors started accusing me of stuff, you're a good mom. We love you, mommy. And just being very affectionate because they know that I'm going to fight for them if and when I ever have to, And so, after 12-year-old recovered a bit, she warmed up to me, and she was like, yeah, he should never have sat down next to me, and I did feel uncomfortable, but I didn't, I wasn't sure what to do. And apparently too, like, so it was a very fast situation. It happened very quickly. He sat down, he leans over close, and he says, what, are you working on schoolwork or homework, or however he phrased it? She felt awkward. She wasn't sure how to respond. She said no. And, at that point, so it had only been like maybe 30 seconds, max a minute, since between him sitting down and me walking up. And
Praise
so
God for that.
she didn't even have time to process, like, what should I do? And then the other awkward thing about it was like, okay, so multiple neighbors were like, well, why didn't your daughter just move to another table? And it's like, why is it incumbent upon my daughter to get up and move to accommodate this guy who could sit absolutely anywhere? Like, she
Yeah.
was there first. She had all her little things spread out. I think she had like a stuffed animal with her. She had her little art notebooks, her colored pencils, her comic books spread out. Like, it was her space.
Elwyn is reminding me so much of the twins.
Yeah.
Like, everywhere they go, they have a little sketchbook, they have their colored
Yes.
pencils, they have like at least 4 mechanical pencils with
Oh,
them. One of my daughters loves plushies, so she usually has a little plushie she takes with, like, this is the innocence of these
yes.
children, and they
Yeah.
should not have to feel like they can't operate where they chose to operate because someone else wants to come and invade their space.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like, best case scenario, this was super rude. Best case
Yeah.
scenario. But honestly, like, I think that, like, as parents, as adults, we need to be setting precedents. We need to not be encroaching on, their personal space. We need to be respecting their privacy, respecting their individuality, their needs, because we want them to notice when somebody who's actually abusive oversteps one of those boundaries. If they're
Yeah.
used to adults, sitting really close to them all the time or touching them, like, and violating those normal social boundaries, if they're used to that, they're not going to notice as quickly when
Yeah.
an abuser comes along. And that's
Yeah.
not acceptable. It's just not acceptable.
That's so important. That's
Yeah.
so important that we teach our children boundaries.
Yes. And prior to all this, my conversation with Elowen had been, you've got the security guard right over there, so, if anything happens, if you feel uncomfortable, you get scared, you just walk over to the security guard. He's right there. And of course, she has her cell phone usually on her, so she can text me, she can call the police, whatever she needs to do, And so, of course, now it was like, we're going more in depth, but at the same time, it's really hard to anticipate what kind of situation you're going to be thrown into, because there's so many weird things that can happen in different situations.
Yeah.
So basically, my advice to her is just like, trust your gut. If somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, if somebody gets too close to you, if somebody says something to you that makes you feel like, that was weird, just call me, text me, walk away from that person, go somewhere public. Because like I said, the school is right across the street. There's parents walking to and from there. She can easily, make a noise, cause a hubbub, just walk to pretty much any adult and say, hey, this man over here is bothering me.
Yeah. Now she knows. Thankfully,
Yeah.
it didn't take any trauma to teach her that.
Yes, thank God.